Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. I have got this here bit of video clip lined up because if I don't play this first, Ian is going to be upset. So just hold on to your hat. Hang on. I have got a hat to hang on to. I'll hold on to this hat. I can't put it over the headphones. Right.
I'll get my hat.
Oh, there you go. Here we go then. Good luck, everybody.
Midnight silence, radar on low, drone in the sky, nobody knows. Saving the week for home holy grace. Orcas watching, calm and rave. Orcas online, it's just the sky. No drone tonight, no need to cry. Orcas online, drew up all night. Royal Air Force mighty high. Oh, it's just the sky. Oh, Orcas online. From Kadohi to Denmark, they so alive but not too high. Orca said, relax, my friend, it's only clouds again.
It's only clouds again. Well, I think he's referring to this. I don't know. It's just a guess. So once again, the Royal Air Force, there's drones spotted all over Belgium. Belgium seems to be doing really well at the moment. Top of the pops, one might say. Well, they're everywhere.
The comments. Look at Sticky Droner's comment.
Yeah, I don't want to look. Good. Yeah. We're working our very best. Ian's absolutely, he's topped it there, hasn't he? It couldn't get any worse than that.
I just want to say, if you go onto Twitter or X and go onto Ian's page, you will find a version of this song where he's actually singing along. Okay,
So it can get worse.
It is worth it. It is worth it.
Oh, and here's me being very rude. We're joined here by Viba, who's the only person in the rest of the world who's really holding truth to power with this whole or power to truth with this whole drones in Europe thing. It's really getting out of hand. Just like Gatwick, the Air Force will go to Belgium and the Air Force will say there's nobody here. I'm a little bit bewildered why they seem to be the only military force within the European Union. I know the UK is not part of the EU anymore, but in that part of the world that has the authority to say definitively, no, there's nothing here. I'm a bit wondering about the training, and there must be a big disconnect with what's deployed there. I think
to be fair, there will be other militaries with similar systems because the Germans went over first, and I don't know if it's true or not because I can't verify it. But I'm told the RAF have probably already moved on from Brussels.
I bet they have.
Oh, have they?
No, I just said I bet they have. I bet they went, no, nothing here.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, they've obviously calmed things down there already. And I know Germans were sent across with the similar system, so they would have had EOIR and whatever else. I mean, we know with the counter-drone systems, it's just having an array of sensors, i.e. you don't just have the one because they were relying on just RF, which is probably not the fault of anyone that's installed it. It's probably just the instructions of, we just want RF, because they were, they've gone for the whole, oh, well, we'll detect RID and blah, blah, blah. And if anyone's not transmitting RID, we know they're a bad guy and all this stuff. But we know you need to have the radar. You need to have the EOIR. That's key because you need to see the thing. You need to have the evidence. And if you don't, you'll then start reporting helicopters as drones, which is something that has been.
Well, that's a nice. I just want to discuss this image before we go to that because you did a great video, and then we'll get Vibin for his views. But I mean, just look at this map of supposed sightings of Belgium. See the clear winner at the moment, Denmark in at number 2, and Poland, the place with actual drones on the ground, really not doing so well.
I love the way they say confirmed or suspected. So
Or
it may all just be
suspected.
suspected.
Well, there's no,
Why
well, there's
put them
definitely
together?
the Polish ones are confirmed, aren't they? But yeah, the others not. Now, this is a great bit of work. If you've been living under a rock, and you didn't catch up with the original Belgium sighting, because I'll say original Belgium sighting because what tends to happen with these things is as soon as something's reported and it makes the press, then every person that steps outside of their home at night sees a drone, and or whatever. And this first one, it was clearly the police helicopter. They shut the airport down for the police helicopter, and it's a great bit of. So it's, you did it, Ian. You explain these clips a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, I was waiting on the guys at Metable to do their magic with the ADSB, but it's a little bit tricky because it's Mode S, and Mode S is a little bit choppy on the track. So, and then the media got these videos directly, so they haven't been put out freely to download with the location. So the MetBook guys looking at what's in the picture more or less worked out exactly where these were taken from, which means at least one of them is likely to have been leaked by airport staff themselves. And it doesn't say a lot if the airport staff have said, well, here's my video of a drone, when it's not a drone. And how I established that, what I can do at checking the time being is the video at the top is definitely a helicopter. Now, that was still put out by the media as a drone, but if you boost the brightness and that, you can see it's a helicopter registration G16, and you can see the light shining off the main rotor and so on. But I thought, given I know that is a helicopter, there was then the other drone video below, which is from the HLN network. So I just synced them up, and the strobe pattern matches in the same color sequence as well. So you can tell that it's the same craft because you've got the same strobes. And this is the craft they were saying, oh, well, this is definitely a drone because it flew close to the control tower. Well, no, it's not.
Yeah, no, it's a good bit of work, that. And I see there's some breaking news from VP, and I'm going to put it up. Is it going to share? Did it share the right tab? So tell us about this. Tell us.
Yeah, even the Netherlands is joining the party now. So this news broke this morning, actually, that there were supposedly some drone sightings in the region of Limburg, which is in the southern part of the Netherlands. It was all over the news today, and I decided to just wait a bit. So didn't pay any attention to it. I said to myself, okay, let's follow up. Let's see what comes out during the day. And actually, there was one of our national BNR radio stations. They had an item tonight on these sightings. Police did follow up. They even sent up a helicopter. This happened on last Friday night. Helicopter couldn't find anything. There was no single, no evidence whatsoever for drones being flown. But there was one instance where someone from the public was pretty sure that he saw a drone swarm, and he even made a photo of it. And that photo turned out to be the nice star sign of the Great Bear. And this is what's going on right now. But it was quite a big thing today, because in some news outlets, it was stated that there were fixed wing drones 2 meters in width. And I don't know how it got there, but police debunked it. They said, well, there's no sign of such a thing. So that was happening today in the Netherlands. So now I was
going to jump and just say it's people reading that, because that's just the thing that's been made up and plucked out of thin air. Because I think I've seen like 1.5 meter fixed wing and 3 meters. No one's got a photo of anything, so no, there's no evidence of it as such. But once it spreads as a rumor. Someone will Google it or ask Rock or whatever, and then they'll say, "Oh yeah, that's what's going on." So people
If you're
actually
gonna make-
say stuff they haven't
if you
seen, and we did see at Wright Patterson where there was actual video of the guards of what they were seeing, and they were seeing aircraft, and they literally put on their witness statements, quadcopters. So it shows that people, even if they haven't actually seen something, if they've got it in the head that that's what it is, they will say they'd actually seen that when they'd seen a lot less.
Yeah.
If you're going to make
What
something up,
this
you might as well be
actually-
precise about it.
But what this is actually part of is that this isn't expectation bias. People are seeing things because they're hearing things in other places. So it's just like a flu virus, you know, or some hypochondria, is that people think that they have something. And that other image that you had there, Gary, with all the suspected locations. What would be interesting is to see a timeline as to when those actually came up, as to, you know, and to which days and how many weeks. Yeah, so that would be interesting to see at the start of the calendar, when the very first one, and at what point, because you can see it going down. You know, it goes down the way, you know, and it's gone, and that would, and that is, again, is like a virus, you know. It's this expectation bias of it spreading, because I'm sure all these the air traffic controllers, I'm sure they all have WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups and all the rest of it, and they're talking with each other. There's communication going on, so that when they go in, it's in the back of their mind, and then when something happens, that's what it is that they see. Or you get it within the media with people as well, and this is why it's spreading.
Yeah. Also, I think the role of authorities here, like for example in Belgium, there's the Minister of Defense, Theo Franken, and he has been very vocal on X, for example. He's been putting out so many statements on the drone incursions, or the alleged drone incursions. Like we saw in Denmark with Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen. I mean, the first days he was talking about a hybrid attack on NATO. It was incredible. There was no single evidence, and already talking about some hybrid attack. It was stunning.
It's interesting. Twice last week, I was on Ukrainian TV talking about, and they wanted to talk about the drone war and things like that, and things that are coming. And we're having all this nonsense going on to the west of Ukraine, and you just instantly think, just call the Ukrainians to sort it out if it's really there. If anyone can sort it out at the minute, it's them. And if our military aren't now with these suspected attacks, again, why I don't quite understand why both the German military and the British military and the Royal Air Force, in fact, it's not for the first time that the Royal Air Force and Germans have met in Belgium, but I don't quite understand why each individual country has not stood up the best in radar, not counter drone gear, but radar. There's good enough radar gear out there that they can use. I suspect they have got the correct gear. There's just no way for each part to talk to each other. That's what my suspicion is, and that's what they've got to sort out first. They've all got to start speaking the same language.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the communication is very off, and no one really knows who or how it should start. We know that there is meetings been going on. We know that there's been discussions going on, but they are obviously not with the right people, and wrong decisions are being made, and wrong purchases have been made, and you know, it doesn't make things any better. In fact, it makes things worse, because when you start making wrong purchases, and then when that's a waste of money, then people start getting very angry, and they'll just continue blaming drones, because they'll think that it's these drones that have caused the problem in the first place. So therefore, and that mud will stick and makes us all look bad.
Yeah, and that, Stephen, is exactly what is going on today. On my website, I put up another story. It was based upon some feedback that I got from the professional drone community in the Netherlands. So actually, there are already operators being kind of assaulted by the public, or when they are flying, and immediately police will show up. and they will have to abort the operation. They will have to show the paperwork, etc., etc. So that is already going on right now, and it's quite problematic.
I've got to stop you at this point as well and go, told you so, Stephen, told you so. You said it wouldn't happen in Europe. I told you so.
No, I said it was going to happen because of RID. Because of RID. This is a completely different story.
No, but we know that RID solves everything. So, you know. Oh, solar activity, Thunderbolt. Yeah, absolutely. Proper northern or southern lights, depending on which part of the hemisphere you're
It's
in.
an X-Class, isn't it?
I don't know, but I've only seen those in Star Wars. I think it's something like that. Yeah. No, it is. It was bound to happen, wasn't it? It is the rollout, and it is. There will, no doubt, because of all this hoo-ha over the last couple of weeks, there will be a dent to the industry, just like there was after Gatwick. We'll be able to trace it in 5 years' time. We'll be saying, well, this didn't happen because of this, that happened because of this. Is it Holland? Someone's getting rid, aren't they, on the back of this? I can't remember which country it was now, but someone's also getting rid. RID doesn't solve anything. It's a mess. And it's going to
putting out a drone register now, wasn't there? Because they said
Belgium.
Belgium, yeah. They say because of drones, well, we need a register of all the legal operators, and it's like that's got absolutely nothing to do with the fact that you've mistaken lights in the sky, but it's almost that Gatwick's become a playbook. It's the example of how to do these things rather than any lessons learned.
I think Holland was the place where they had the light aircraft, an unusual shaped light aircraft, go over, and that got reported as a drone. It's gone. It's going.
Yeah, definitely. And in Belgium, they said that they want this national drone register. So we already have an operator registration in place. That is part of the EU regulations. So if you fly a drone that is over 250 grams, it needs to have remote ID. I mean, we are all big fans of that. But we have something already. And now Belgium wants this drone registry. There's something that I learned that France seemed to have such a registry already in place, but nobody is seemingly using it. Someone from the French drone community told me. But it's quite interesting. So we're now getting back to where we began, because before we had the EU regulations, we had a drone register in the Netherlands as well for professional drones. So we were happy that was gone, and now we are getting it back probably.
Yeah, and I think you guys it was Holland that put out the note down that's saying, don't fly over our military stuff, drones.
Yeah.
Which that was also a nonsense, because there's all sorts of regulations to say you shouldn't do that anyway. Yeah, so it's like,
exactly. And they copied Lake and Heath there, but instead of doing lots of little ones, they just thought, let's save time.
The entire country.
Yeah. If that actually worked, then put one over the entire of Europe, put it over the Ukraine, and that will stop Putin from...
It'll stop the Russians.
No Russian drones. Just any drones, but not Russian ones.
Yeah, and the point is that this big NOTAM, it is covering all of the country. So we have this app, and wherever you click on the map, you get this warning. So people get confused. And also the NOTAM says, it's military language, it says, no airpass activity allowed. And there's so many people who don't know what that is. So you see, it's utter nonsense what is going on here. And it doesn't help us, definitely not. And the most funny thing is that we have an official app, GoDrone, which is powered by, you guessed, Altitude Angel. So the official app isn't working right now. So it doesn't even show this NOTAM.
Oh, they've missed that NOTAM. Of course they have. Shame. Yeah. But then, and as you correctly say, the language, it speaks to, again, the bit that we so often say on this, the missing link in a lot of this is training, education, training, education. There's there's a no time out in the UK at the moment for some GPS jamming trials at Senny Bridge, which is just a little bit into Wales. And if you've been around aviation, then you know that it's quite a normal thing and expect problems. But the comments I've seen from people in the Mavic groups about what they think's happening and the conspiracy theories for it are quite extraordinary. And that would just, all it would take would be a little bit more training in general community, incentivized training. Oh, I'm getting on my high horse here. What do I mean by incentivized training? Yes, allow you to go closer, higher, further for having completed some training, just to get your aviation knowledge up.
Yeah,
but anyway,
but this goes both ways. But I think a lot of the airport staff, a lot of the ground crew need to be trained properly as well. I think.
Oh, sure.
It's a lot of the drone community do lack a lot of knowledge. They do lack a lot of education, and that is really down to the regulators as well, because they haven't enforced that. I mean, we have this as well. Listen, but can I slightly change the subject for 2 seconds? Then we can go back to that again. There was a solar storm came out of the sun a couple of hours ago, and apparently there's going to be really high KP tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's an X5. I checked.
It's going to go up to about KP8. So if anyone is out there flying tomorrow and you find you've got problems with the GNSS, it could well be because of the high KP, and it's not because you're getting jammed. So just so you know.
And then.
I think that the Northern Lights will be seen as a drone swarm. So
yes, exactly.
that's exactly where I was going to take it. There will be drone swarms everywhere. But there'll be people saying, "I've never heard of the." I guarantee there'll be people saying, "We've never had a problem with the KP index before. Never heard of it. What on earth are you talking on? Why have they invented this KP thing?" I guarantee it. You'll find people on the socials tomorrow saying that. I'm trying to get an inappropriate picture up. But where's our man in New Zealand? Is he here in the comments? Rainbow comms. No, the other one. I see probably just people panicking. Here we go. This is a long comment here. Genuine threats of war and hybrid. Well, yes and no. Cyber attacks. Yeah, I'm down with that. But you won't have heard this before, but as we've said on here before, if you want to close down an airport these days, you just need a cell phone. Just call them and say you've seen a drone, and you'll get an airport shut down. So if you're a Russian, that's not a very other enemies are available. I suppose I should say that. If you're somebody that wants to do some bad in the world and you want to cause some havoc and destruction, just a simple telephone call will shut down airfields, and that is ridiculous. We've got to move away from this position, and we've got to move to a position where if something is detected, then appropriate action is taken, and who will take that action. Now, I'm in South Africa, and we have kind of every man and his dog wants to come and save the world, save animals and things like that. It's all very well to turn up with technology, but when the technology pings something up, who do you call? Who takes the actual action? And that's where the missing link of that sort of story is. And that's what's happening with the counter drone situation. And it really, oh God, I really am on my high horse. I'm going to finish my high horse thing. To me, it points to there isn't a joined up sky picture in most of the world. Vendors have sold individual bits of kit and equipment to different people. None of it talks to each other. The military don't see what it sees. There was a great picture. I think it was the German. Oh no, it was the Belgian or Dutch air traffic control center, and the military guy sat there with all the radars that I'm familiar with, process radars, and he's got a big screen with Flight Radar 24 on it. So what's he actually? What's he actually using? So I'll get off my whole house. Someone else talk.
Yeah, just to jump in on that. I mean, we see it all the time, and it's interesting that it always happens this time of year. I feel sorry for the Royal Air Force because they rarely get to have the Christmas dinner because they're always getting called out for people seeing drones. And this is kind of the proof that it is a mistake, because it's like, why we're not seeing them all year round? It's always when it turns to night earlier on hours earlier than people are used to, and they're outside, so there's the sea in the sky, and then and all it takes is then the one incident of someone saying I've seen a drone, and then it just flows on like hysteria. And we see again every time a helicopter's put up. Now, if there was something there, the helicopter's EOIR would have it recorded. So you can't say there's something there and people are missing it, because people don't realise, but a drone sticks out like a sore thumb. But also, it compounds the problem because they're launching a helicopter with its full lights on, and everyone else around it then says it's a drone, and it becomes a confirmation for it. And no one's stopping that. It's continuing on. And as long as all this continues on and no one puts any thought into this, this is just doomed to go on every year. But for anyone to keep saying, oh, well, no, there must be something to it. No, there mustn't. There hasn't been in the past. It's exactly the same pattern. It was funny, me and Viva were putting on X. Weeks before, we said, this is how it's going to play out. You're going to have the panic. The counter drone's going to be called in. Immediately, the sightings are going to stop. The media are going to forget about it, and it's rinse and repeat. And that's exactly what's happening. And so the very fact you can even say this is the pattern just underlines. And again, we can say, well, the helicopters will go up. That's going to cause sightings. The EOIR, if there's something, and there won't be. They'll come back. And I've spoken to members of the media, and this is a good thing, actually. I've had quite a lot of chats with people around Europe. And I've said, ask them. There's the helicopter. Here's a picture of the EOIR on it. Ask them for the video. Ask them, because they won't give you it because they haven't got any. And that and all this is your proof. So there are journalists, and again, they'll all, because they're not familiar with Gatwick or all that in the past, they'll all argue with you first and go, no. Oh no, there's someone at the airport. They've seen it. The cleaner there saw it. It's definitely there. And I go, whatever, this is how it's going to play out. And then a few days later, when it's playing out like that, they get back in touch with me, and then they're doing the story that says, oh, New Jersey, New York, we've seen it in the past.
And oh, sorry, after you.
I'm just going to say, to be honest with you, I would trust a cleaner more than I would trust anyone else, to be honest with you, because anyone else down there, anyone else walking around outside with all that white light and stuff, they're all making bad judgments. So give me a cleaner any day.
We've heard about that, you and Scrubbers. It's largely a nonsense, and it's a distraction. And I was in the military, Peter, long back when Pontius was a pilot, 1 million years ago. And I was very aware, 30 odd years ago, 30 years ago, lots of years ago, 40 years ago. I was very well aware of detection systems then used for finding submarines and stuff, and listening to RF from miles and miles and miles away. And that was old kit. So no doubt the military now have some really amazing stuff. And the fact that they're not launching and they're not getting even more uptight about these perceived threats says to me they're not there, because they've got the gear to see it.
And shoot it down.
And shoot it down. They got all the toys and detect it a long way, detect it a long way away. So that minister actually suggested going kinetic, or didn't he tweet some Bofors type guns or something like that? If they'd been installed at that airport, they would have shot down a police helicopter. That's the bottom line. It's so, but I'm not selling. However, if I go into the counter UAS business, I'm sure I will have a different set of talking points, and I'll be willing to sell you my XYZ gear straight away, because that's where we're at.
I was going to say the frustrating thing as well. The moment that helicopter went up, about the next day, you've then got the drone expert on the news that represents some drone organization, and then he's going, yes, that was definitely a drone.
Yeah, I know. I was going to mention him.
Video. It's not checked ADSB, and then it's that very video we've seen of the helicopter. But I'm like, why? There's always, it don't matter which country you're in, there's always someone for a name check that will say any old shite on the camera, and add to the problem, because that's part of the problem. Because when people do that, if I'm trying to have a conversation with a journalist, they're going to say, "I'll put you over there saying that," and I'm going, I said, well, that's why I don't use the word expert. There's always one of them, but it hinders the whole conversation, and it frustrates me that still that is happening. And again, I'm thinking, you could be on the TV putting out an accurate message, and you still get your name out there, and everyone on LinkedIn and around the world that's seen you wouldn't think you were a dick.
Well, yes. Well, speaking of, there's 30 minutes on that topic, and this is probably going to be a 40-minute little interlude here. Interesting Friday we all had. I think it was Thursday and Friday, as this story broke, and that was, I'll let Ian pick this up for the full rant. An NPCC drone that flew up into some wires. I don't have any groovy pictures of it. Flew up into some wires in the Isle of Sheppey, and then came down from the wires and hit a child. And our dear friend Richard Ryan has already requested more information. So please confirm whether the Isle of Sheppey incident on 2nd August 2025 involving Kent police drone striking overhead cable and injuring child was formally notified to the AAIB or CAA, and so on and so forth. So we're going to unpack this some more. The truth will come out eventually, the full truth. But maybe I'll hand it over to Ian. You shoot me down.
The reason this came out and the frustration with it, because it goes back actually some time with the AAIB. We even mentioned it on the show. There was rumours around of various accidents having happened, and yet when you went onto the AAIB site and you searched at those periods of time, there was just nothing other than commercial operators and hobbyists having crashed. And I thought, well, this doesn't add up. So I asked the AAIB. And then you can tell a bit with freedom of information when you're being flim-flam straight away, the way there's hostility to answer in the first place, and then there's usually you're trying to misread your question so they can give you the wrong answer. And it took quite a bit to and from me, being quite forceful actually, of saying, look, I'm not messing about here. I'll get my answer, or this is going to ICO. And it was only at that point they admitted that. Even at that point, they were saying, "Well, it's down to it was basically a case by case decision. They decided whether the police were involved or not when they were looking at these cases. So it seems that more often than not, they write it up as like a Matrice had this accident, this was happening." And it reads as though it's a commercial operator. Well, I thought this isn't good, because if a journalist, and we know journalists will always go for the data set, they're going to go, well, this many commercial operators have had an accident, and this many, and then it's going to be, well, hang on a minute, you should separate the police ones, because they're on a very different risk profile. They're going to be, if you're a commercial operator, you do a pre-planned mission. If you're filming something, you're going to normally be parallel to it. So if it did fall, you're not onto people that if you're doing a police pursuit, you might have someone's life or death where you have no choice, and so on. There's differences between them. And I don't understand why it should be different anyway. If there's a police car crash or something, it's not written up as though it's just some bloke in his Toyota who's hit a wall. It's quite plainly the police have had an incident. It's with the IOPC and blah, 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 blah. So I actually went to the AIB on this one, and they actually lied to me. So they said I'm not worded my question in any way that it could be misinterpreted or so on. And they essentially told me that there hadn't been an incident with a police drone that had injured a member of the public. And I went, there has. So I said, they gave me some historic ones. I said, are you absolutely sure you're not missing out your current cases? And it was only then they acknowledged it. and then they said it was a Matrice M30T, but they still wouldn't go into any more detail, and we're doing the whole exemptions. And they're going to the exemption when it's going to publish later. I said, sorry, mate, it's public interest. There is no public interest test you could do that says that should be held onto when it's the first incident of such. It sounds pretty serious. We won't really know until the reports come out. But for the kid to be taken off to a London hospital suggests that potentially they were stitching, a finger back on or something. So it could turn out to be that the cuts with the blades were pretty significant. So I had to, and I shouldn't have to do this. And this shows how it's wrong, because the normal member of the public wouldn't be doing this. I had to use the SUAS news account to go to the IOPC press office for them to say, yes, there has been an accident. It is being investigated, and to give a little bit of detail around that. So once I got that, I gave it to the BBC, because the BBC got wind of it anyway. And they just seemed the appropriate outlet to put it out there, because the part of the story, as much as anything, was this frustration with the Freedom of Information Act, because I actually ended up on, you got out of it, thankfully, for you, Gary, because they were originally going to speak to you, but it ended up being the evening when they wanted a conversation on air. So I used the opportunity of that to actually start off with saying, well, the Freedom of Information Act, when it comes to drone issues, isn't working. We're always getting hindered. And that's why this, it was kind of a dig-in to get to this information, where there should be more clarity around this. While you may not want to pull the details out there to conclusion of the case, that's fine. But we don't do this same thing with any other kind of police accident. It's acknowledged that it's going on. It's acknowledged that there's an investigation. And at the end of it, we know that that's a police incident that's being discussed, and it's not just Joe Bloggs down the road. And that's the issues here, I think.
And to me, as I wrote in this, we're all supposed to work in a just culture, aviation culture. And they had a chap from Leicestershire who crashed his drone. Now, crashing your drone, that's what we do in this world, isn't it? That's what happens. That happens. But this chap he hid it, and he lied, and he got sacked for doing that. And it just, to me, it says, I'll put the link in there here for those who want to read it, but it says to me that they're afraid. Now, they operate their drones under different regulations to the rest of us in the UK, or pretty much.
Jump in on that, Gary, because we'll have to wait for clarification, because I don't know that all of the operators do fly under state aircraft. I don't know if that's just the BV loss or everybody.
I've been told it's everybody. I've been told it's everybody.
I was given the benefit of the doubt of thinking, because I got the impression that the pilots were going for like the GVC and that. So I assumed at the end of that, they'd be going through a normal ops manual and same as everyone else. But I did bring up the concern, because it is unknown that by using the state aircraft, which seems to be, and this was actually a frustration that I brought up on the BBC piece as well, was we've got everyone in the commercial world, and then to a degree in the hobbyist world, where they're having to work within the laws. A lot of those laws have been fought and pushed by the police and by the Home Office to be put there in the first place. And there's a lot of the restrictive and nastier stuff in our laws that the police have pushed to be put in there. And then the moment they've got to operate within those same horrible restrictive laws, they don't want to do it. And that's really what comes across with the state aircraft. It's like, well, we can't operate under the laws that are there, so we're gonna ignore them. And I don't think people will, just as a matter of everyone else looking at it in the industry, will think, oh, wait a minute, why is there one rule for the police and one rule for everyone else? And there should be, for example, if you use the streets as an analogy, the police still have to abide by the same rules as everyone else, albeit if you're in a pursuit, you might have advanced driver training, you'll be allowed to push the boundaries some more, and there will be different things you're allowed to do. That is fair enough. But I think to have a routine every day, even non-emergency, you're deciding, well, I'm going to ignore the laws that are there and operate for these separate set or reduced set. I think it begs questions anyway. And
what it's let them do is have these BV loss trials. That's where you bring the BV loss thing in London and Coventry, and I think there's one happening in Lincoln right now. I think there's 11 sites in total, but they believe they can do that. But I don't think the Civil Aviation Authority agrees with them, and that's why the Civil Aviation Authority is putting up these temporary danger areas for these things, because they're not quite sure what they're doing. And it cannot be. I've always said it, and I'll continue saying it. I would prefer police aviation operations, be they crewed or uncrewed, to all happen under the wing of NPAS. They are real aviators. They understand aviation. It seems to me the most logical place for it to be. The NPCC, the National Police Chiefs Council, are thinking they're getting a cheaper job by having drones in a box and other stuff, and they're going to get air support for cheap. That's what they're thinking, and that's what the fight is, and that's what the police don't want us to see. And again, I've got on my house. I tell you this. You remember last week I went to sleep, or just about. I took myself off to bed before I started this. This week, my schoolboy error this week that's got me wound up was I've been listening to The Wall with Pink Floyd beforehand and doing other things and drawing stuff and designing stuff. So my mind isn't here at all. But yeah, that's what I think is occurring. Someone else, stop me talking. No, you're not going to.
But I think that excuse me. I think that having this temporary danger area is normal when it comes to any kind of testing. If there's BV loss trials happening, we have it here all the time. I've seen it in other countries.
Name the BV loss trial from a commercial operation in England that's happened in the city centre that Civil Aviation Authorities let happen. There isn't one. There isn't one.
Well, I mean, if you look at Mana here, Mana are flying here right now. They're not flying in the city centre, but they're flying in an urban or an environment. There is no temporary danger area there, because the temporary danger area would conflict with the would actually conflict with the air ambulance. So they don't want to do that, and it would cause more problems. So they didn't want to put up a temporary danger area. So but there's other BV loss trials here. There's one here which you had on your actually news site last week. So there's one here, and there is a temporary danger area for that. It's the Norwegian company that's doing all the trials here. There is a temporary danger area actually there for that. So,
with you mentioning Mana, that this is one thing I had in the back of my head actually with the police trials, and this is kind of the difference. Mana are as good as being a certified craft because they flew it for years, and they weren't even allowed initially to fly it in the rain. The idea was they proved the platform, and they've got so many thousands of hours, so many revisions and improvements they've done over time to deal with that they've essentially gone in a path similar to your manned aviation of we proved this with the number of hours and all these processes and hoops they've had to jump through to get where they are, and that's completely different to buying a DJI off the shelf and flying it in that manner.
But because I was part of the consultation team when they were here at first, and we sat with the regulators and we were talking with them. And we were given the options, and the regulators were saying that, if you want a temporary danger area, we can give you one, but it will just cause more problems and you will be unpopular. So if you want to be unpopular, it actually makes no difference. But if you want to be unpopular, then that's okay. If you don't want to be unpopular and you feel that it's okay, then you don't need one. And that was the easiest way to do it.
Well, that's pretty amazing that your regulator was being so generous, I want to say. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, but that's just how they are, because they are realistic, and that's how they should be. So it's not, I have been talking about this and how the Finnish regulators are. They are very easy to work with because they all have an aviation background. They all work with drones as well. So, and they know that the air ambulance is not going to be calling them all the time, because that's not part of their process. They should not be doing that. They just need to get in a helicopter and get where they have to go. So they are using ADSB and they're checking all the time, but it just means that we can fly. I can fly there. I can go and fly next to them. If, I just tell them I'm going to fly, and they go, yeah, okay, that's fine. But just what you were saying in there about the rain, their drone at first wasn't able to fly in the rain. It's not that they didn't get permission. It's that it couldn't fly. But the newer version that they have, the one they have now, that can. So it's actually a different model. And I was actually at their test centre in the middle of Ireland, and they were testing that at that time, and it was raining because it's always raining in Ireland. And and this was the new model they had. So that model that couldn't fly in the rain, it is because it couldn't, because the actual build of it. But the new one they have does have that ability to do that because of the build. So.
Yeah, I mean, I did say jokingly actually to Bobby. I replied to one of his. He posted actually from Ireland with the drone flying, and there was absolute downpour. And I just said that if you want to do your IP test for your drone, perfect place. You do it up in Scotland, do it in Ireland, and if you've flown it there for a year and you've not had an incident, you can say, "I've proven it," and it's like, fair enough.
But I think the Karens are the problem again. I mean, they had their latest land use permission revoked, right? Near that church. Noise complaints. It didn't fit in there. I think that you discussed it last week, right? But that's going to be the major problem, I think, going forward. Also now, well, we have discussed this public attitude towards drones. It's not getting better. Definitely not.
But it doesn't help with the negative press that is going on. It doesn't help. And that's, and again, I've been saying this on this show several times for over a year. And I've actually been to the site in Ireland. Actually in Dublin, I've been to that site, and it's not noisy. And in fact, it's more noisy with the traffic in that area, because the traffic in that area is very heavy. And that's where the benefit of having that service is, because the food gets there quicker, because there are lots of food places around in that area, and it would take it forever to get there with the amount of traffic. Now, the volume of the traffic, and I mean that with decibel volume, is very, very high. So, but when that drone takes off, I've even got videos on my phone of the drones taking off in that location. And once they get above 20 meters, you can't hear it at all. It's gone, So to me, it's BS, and it's just negative. It's, it's this negative attitude coming in all the time, and just, folks complaining for the sake of complaining.
The whining of the Karens is louder than the propellers.
Yes, exactly.
I must say, I mean, if you play the devil's advocate, right? I can imagine a future where there's not only Mana, but maybe also Wing, and there's Amazon, and there's maybe more delivery companies. They all want to start their drone delivery center. Would it still be the same if you would have drones flying every minute above your garden? Would it be the same? I think look forward 10 years from now. Yeah.
I mean, if we look back 40, 50 years ago, when you had areas that didn't have lots of industry, then you had trucks going through towns and villages, because of let's say construction sites or other parts of the industry, and trucks which are very noisy and very heavy, and people were complaining about that, which they were. And then all of a sudden, that's just normal. It is just normal, and it takes a lot of getting used to. But of course, no one was having any suspected truck sightings next to airports, so there was no negativity there, you know. But it's just something which just happens. Anyway.
Just today, I saw somebody, a new acronym being born. You know, we all take pride when a newborn comes along, and it was DAI, drones as infrastructure, and people are going that way now, and they're suggesting that councils everywhere or cities will have fleets of drones doing this and that and all the other. But I always, whenever I go on,
you know what that is, Gary. That's too many people. There's too much European Union money for too many people who have been given jobs to do that they have no idea what to do with the money, and they sit down and they make these acronyms, and then they try to push it, and then it doesn't go anywhere, and it will never go anywhere.
Well, I know, but in these things and in these representations, the cities always have roofs covered in greenery because they're being sorted out, and there's fantastic bike lanes, and there's, you know, the whole city looks really amazeballs, and these things are flying over the top. And I just always think, well, look, what particular function are they doing? Well, if it's an eye in the sky, then cameras on every street corner and every pole will be just as effective as all these flying things. I don't see what flying a camera brings to the party.
I made a comment to certain people here in the city of Helsinki, where they had spent a large amount of money to have images made, right? Just about, I would say, 200 meters from my office here in the centre, there's a building, and it's kind of a listed building, and it's right slap bang in the centre of the city, right in the centre. And they had this artist create this image where they had eVTOLs on the top of this building, and they presented this at one of these. Of course, it was a European Union thing, you know. And they presented this, and they were very proud. And I said, "How much money did that cost to have all these images made?" And I, you know, I won't say how much it was. It was a lot. It was a hell of a lot. And I just thought, what an absolute waste of money. What does that gain? What is the value of creating these images apart from, you know, wasting people's time? It drives me insane. You know, these people, and Christ, don't get me started. All done like you.
No, I don't see the sky for. Well, it's supposed to be here now, isn't it? I started SES News in 2008. We should be quarter past. It's nearly over now. It should all be natural and everywhere, but doesn't seem to be yet. But before we go, there was one more thing I wanted to ask Bruce about, and I was going to ask: has that cheap digital FPV gear arrived yet?
No, they won't be shipping it for at least another week or two, I should think. But when it does, I'll let you know what it's like.
Because it's very interesting, the goggles purchase and this and where that's going to go. It's mildly interesting, but the range in particular, I'll be interested to see what you get. What milliwatt output was that unit?
I think it's 100 or 200. It's not much, but it's. I can see where the hobby is going. We're going to go small. We're going to go light. When people think of drones, they think of something yay big. Little tiny whoops. I don't think the public see them in the same light as a larger drone weighing 250 grams or more. So I think we're going to be pushed into a tiny corner, flying little tiny whoops in parks and around our houses and things. And the use of things like a Mavic or a Phantom, it's going to be really hard to fly those in public places because of all the pushback we're getting. And we as a community are not pushing back against that negative press nearly enough. Not nearly enough.
So 100 grams is the new 250, is it?
It could well be, even less, because that little FPV system, 6 grams is the weight of the camera, board, and antenna. So you can build a under 30 gram drone and it's going to have a couple 100 meters of range at least, maybe 400 meters of range, more than enough for flying around a park or a cityscape or whatever. And it becomes hard to argue that it's a danger to the public because it's so light, so small, it can't carry a payload. Why would you grizzle about that any more than someone kicking a ball or a can down the road? You know, it's like there's no legitimate reason for anybody to complain about that or to regulate it beyond what you regulate a tennis ball.
Yeah, quite so. Do you remember back in 2010 when the drone regulations for South Africa were all about the being equivalent to a kicked football? It all made a lot of sense with 2010, the World Cup.
But that's 450 grams. A football's 450 grams, and we're talking about a tenth of that. Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's something I didn't imagine. Imagine I didn't know something. Imagine that. And then maybe just imagine the last thing. Did the Russians just shoot down? Are we worried about drones over Europe, and the Russians have just shot down a Hercules in Georgia? We all seen those.
Did they shoot that down? Did they? I saw it falling out.
Did they? I don't know.
But you said there was a mid-air explosion in the reports I read. But obviously the tail fell off, the nose fell off, and the wing came down in a like a sycamore leaf. It was quite spectacular.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a Hercules fall apart like that.
I'm surprised there was no in-air fire though. Like it was just this fuel spewing out of the wings, obviously, and it was coming down. You think if it was hit by a missile, it would have caught on fire. Yeah. It was just a pretty horrific image, wasn't it? And I did wonder. Now, why can't I? There we are. Is that sort of thing we're talking about here? Is it?
Yeah,
Stephen.
Yeah. I found it. Yeah.
McDougal's there in the shops. And actually, I just bought you see that big boy brand? That's a Chinese motorcycle brand here. But anyway, obviously not in Europe. But there we are. Right. So with a couple of minutes to go, does anyone else have anything else? Here we go. Go on then.
I don't know if we mentioned it last week or not. I think it might have come up in the time being because one thing that was quite funny actually is again over the last few weeks, there's a lot of dramas being tried to be made over contraband drones are going, let's just jam them without thinking about the problem. But then it's kind of funny if anyone that's been watching the news in the UK, prisoners just keep walking out anyway. So I don't know why anyone's worrying about drones because we're letting about 250 people out that shouldn't even be let out. So we've got bigger problems, which was kind of from like the prison episode and that we kind of suspected. But what was interesting and following on from all of that, it went out fairly quietly. So it wasn't like all over Facebook and everything. But so I was kind of lucky I even stumbled across it. But the government has offered tenders for people to come up with counter drone solutions. They've got about 6 weeks. Now, bearing in mind, we're a country that has spent tens of millions of pounds on counter drone. And they're offering these lucky people to create these systems £60,000 each to build a prototype. And then this is the acknowledgement that they even know themselves that the jamming narratives are loads of bollocks. Whereas the requirement is to make a jammer that can jam a 4G SIM without interrupting the rest of the network and be able to individually detect that SIM.
And how do they intend to test that to make sure that doesn't actually happen?
Well,
How do they think
they're going to use the NATO bomb testing program for it? Bomb detector tester. Remember the NATO bomb detectors that never worked?
Yeah.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, special guest star coming from the internets. Christoph is absolute legendary autopilot manufacturer who keeps things very quiet, a designer. So quite impressed that you're there. Lovely to see you. Haven't heard from you for a long time. So obviously something's going to happen there. Now he's in Poland, so he'd know. He'd definitely know. How cool that he's here. Lovely to see him. Right, now that's it. The hour's just about coming up. So, dear viewer, why are you chuckling? I'm trying to keep to time.
I'm just reading what he wrote. Gee, goodness me. We said it would happen.
He is that sort of he's a top chap. So dear viewer,
How do
wherever
you pronounce
are,
his name, Gary? How do you pronounce his name?
I don't know. I said Christoph, but that's probably not how you
Oh, yeah.
pronounce it. I can't remember these things. Going once, going twice. Look after yourselves wherever you are in the world. We'll see you again next week at 2100 Gin and Tonic, when hopefully this nonsense will be over. Cheers all. Take care. Bye bye.